Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page is the greatest rivalry in AEW history. And while AEW's only been around a couple of years and they have told many great stories with some of the best and biggest wrestlers that have ever graced a professional wrestling ring, there hasn't been one that has been as visceral, hateful, and quite frankly hardcore than that of Swerve versus Adam Page. The story that they have told over the last calendar year has not only changed the trajectory of these two men's careers, but also the trajectory of all elite wrestling. One of the biggest drawbacks of AEW from critics was their quote-unquote incapability of telling stories. And while that has been disproven by things such as the rise of Hangman Adam Page, the Kenny Omega belt collector gimmick, and Toni Storm versus Mariah May, the list goes on, there is no better example of AEW's capability of telling great stories than Hangman and Swerve. Think about where we were just 1 year ago. Hangman and Swerve were two men that we didn't even know we wanted to see wrestle each other, let alone embark on what would become one of the bloodiest, most graphic feuds in all of pro wrestling history. But when they first entered that ring together, it just felt different. And the rumblings were always there for greatness between these two. And as their story progressed, it at a certain point became something bigger than even the world title picture. And that is why at AEW All Out 2024, they were the main event. Even though it was a lights out match, they went on last. And there's a reason for that. It's because regardless of the titles that are at stake, these two men do not care about that. There is a reason why right now Swerve Strickland isn't focused on getting back to the AEW world title picture. It's because when he wants to get there and when he decides that he needs to go after the belt again, he needs to do it without Hangman Page lingering in the back of his mind. That is how much the hatred of the Hangman Page character has impacted Swerve Strickland. He does not want to go and reclaim what many believe is rightfully his without first dealing with the person he hates more than anyone else in the world. And their match at AEW All Out 2024 proved just the lengths these characters are willing to go in order to finally be done with one another. These two men over the last year have burned each other's houses down, have broken into each other's houses. Hangman Adam Page has gone through great lengths to try to make sure Swerve Strickland does not retain or does not win at one point the AEW World Championship. Swerve Strickland playing mind games like no other, talking about Hangman Page's pregnant wife, talking about his kids, making sure that no matter what, Swerve's hypothesis that Hangman has lost his way, that he is not as good as he once was, that Hangman Page is a shell of his former self and is someone who does not want to focus on world titles like the original Hangman Page character wanted to, but instead wants to focus on pettiness, wants to focus on this feud, wants to focus on getting back at Swerve Strickland. And what they did in their match, that steel cage lights out match, was horrible to watch, but also exactly how this part of their feud should culminate. The feud started with a bang in that promo that Swerve cut on Hangman back in September of 2023, and this phase of it just ended with a bang as Hangman Adam Page, after sticking a hypodermic needle into Swerve Strickland's mouth, hit one of the nastiest, ugliest, and quite frankly disgusting chair shots we have ever seen to end the match, knock out Swerve, and finally, by hook, by crook, or regardless of the matter, defeat Swerve Strickland. Something he has not done, redeeming himself finally after months and months of agony, with Swerve breaking into his home, with Swerve terrorizing his family, with Swerve being in the head of Hangman Page. This was a way for Hangman Page to exorcise that demon. And at All Out, I think he finally did, for now, But the best part about this feud is that it's not over. And if you think that Swerve and Hangman are done forever and we're not going to go back to it at some point, I would beg to differ, because the way that I see Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland is not just of two people who had this massive disagreement, who had all this hate for each other over the last calendar year, and it culminated in this match. But I think this is a hate that is going to stay with them for the rest of their careers. These two men will forever be bound together by what they have done to each other over the last year. These are going to be things of legend. Think Terry Funk being stabbed in the eye by Jerry Lawler. Think Terry Funk putting a plastic bag over Ric Flair's head. Think some of the most diabolical and disgusting acts you could ever think about happening in professional wrestling history. And that is what we have here. These two men are not done with each other. I truly believe they are just getting started. And while they may take a break for a while here, I see them as two men that you can always go back to in a story and always depend on to deliver a main event caliber match, no matter what. That not only speaks to the caliber of professionals that Swerve and Hangman are, they are two of the best. Hangman has been proving this over the last couple of years. Swerve in 2024, you could argue, is the best overall wrestler when it comes to having it down to a T in the ring, as an aura, as a vibe, whatever you want to call it. He's got it. That presence that he has is right up there with the best, and he has been on a roll when it comes to the matches he's had this year. And I think that at a certain point we will come back to this. And think about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Those two men were at one point two of the best in the entire business, and that was a feud that they always went back to. That no matter what, all right, we don't have anything for this next pay-per-view, Shawn and Bret can always be dependent on hating on each other and delivering that big match. And I see Swerve and Hangman in a very similar category in that principle. So again, while this chapter may be closed in the book of Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland, I think there's going to be plenty more to read in this novel of nightmares that we call a rivalry. But I guess we'll see.